Hey, what is up, everybody? Michael Crump back here again, talking about the latest and the greatest in PlayStation homebrew news and much, much more. So, I hope everybody has had a great couple of weeks. I have been away, obviously, doing some work related tasks, but I am back now and I have a ton of homebrew news to talk about. So, let's just go ahead and let's just jump straight into it. So, the very first thing that I wanted to talk about was that there is two brand new system software updates that came out. One for the PlayStation 4, which is going to be version number 11. And there are some notes that's in here. You can now sign into your PS4 console without a password with the PlayStation app. You can see emoji reactions to messages. We've improved the messages and usability on some screens. So there really isn't a lot that was added in firmware version 11. Obviously, if you care about homebrew, you do not want to update to this at all. And then we also saw that there was an update for the PlayStation 5, which brings us up to version 8.00. Obviously, Sony's putting a lot of effort into the PlayStation 5, and there is a ton of additional features that was added in the PS5 release versus the PS4 release. So some of the major things that came out with 8.00 was Dolby Atmos support. So this gives us 3D audio on HDMI devices that already support Dolby Atmos. You can also use an M.2 SSD with up to 8 terabytes of storage, which is a lot. There's a couple of additional languages added to the screen reader, and it also says now that you can use an assist controller. So if you need somebody to kind of assist you navigating around on your PlayStation 5, well, you can do that. And then there is a few other updates to the game base, to parties. And yes, this list just keeps on scrolling. So a ton of different updates in there. And then in homebrew related news, we've had an update to PS-PSH. What this is basically a primitive shell server for the PlayStation 4 and for the PlayStation 5. And what you can really do with this is doing things like uploading and downloading files off of those systems. And yeah, you can do it even on systems that aren't fully exploited. So for example, I have a video that I released right around 5 months ago, and it was showing how you could download and upload files from a 10.50 PS4. Well, now if you use the very latest version of PS-PSH, there has been support that has been added all the way for the PlayStation 4 firmware 11. Now, this one does not say anything about the PlayStation 5. So I would just assume right now that the PlayStation 5 isn't fully supported. But for the PlayStation 4, if you're on firmware 11, you would be able to do things like download and upload files from that file system. And if we go back, well, here you can see all of the commands that's currently available. So things such as listing the files in folders, changing directories, copying files, moving files, removing files, making directories, sending a pop-up notification is also possible, uploading and downloading, and then you could even do things like play a PS2 ISO using MasterCore. So a very cool tool. It's one that I've definitely been keeping my eye on, and you should as well. And then we had a bit of an update over here from Illusion, and that was that 120 frames per second in PS4 games on a hacked PS5 is now possible. So the game that he is using here is obviously Gravity Rush 2, which is a PlayStation 4 game. Illusion had already unlocked the 60, but it looks like 120 frames per second is possible with some games. Obviously, if you want to go ahead and start trying this out today, well, you can do so because I do have a video that I released right around 3 weeks ago that shows how to activate the 60 frames per second patches, or really any of the patches from the start to the finish. So all you really do need is you just need one of the exploitable games, an exploitable PlayStation 5, and then just follow through these instructions to get yourself up and running with that. And then there was an update for the web host that we all use to exploit our PlayStation 5. So version 4.00 is now fully supported. So you might be wondering, why is this just now a thing? Well, that is because 4.00 was one of those firmwares that we just didn't have support for. And now that we have the offsets, it can now be added to this list of an exploitable firmware. So now if you're running anything from 3.00 all the way up to 4.51 using WebKit, then obviously you will have everything that you need to exploit your system. We can go in here to the commits, and we can just see that right here on add 4.0 offsets, if we look inside that commit, we can see that now no longer 4.00 is on that to-do list, but now it is back on a fully supported item. So super happy to see 4.00 support added in there. I know there wasn't a lot of people that had it, but something very, very cool to see. And shout out to Spectre Dev and for that team for putting that support in there. Next up, I saw this tweet by Control Execute, and what this was just a screenshot that he shared with the caption of being soon, and it shows a disk, what appears to be a disk that is inserted into the system, and this may stand for manual verification disk. And so obviously we don't know what is on this disk once he runs it. We don't know if this was a Blu-ray disk that he burned an image to, or if this is an original disk, but something that definitely a bunch of people are questioning. Is this custom firmware, or what exactly is this? So hopefully we will hear something soon, but I definitely wanted to put this on your radar. And then since I know you all love themes, there's actually a number of these themes by Mouuu, and these are PS4 themes. And so this is a red package theme. Now, not only is there this red color, but there's also a couple of other colors. I believe there was a green color and a few more. So for those of you that love themes, there's a couple of great themes in here that you'd be able to hopefully go ahead and enjoy over on your PlayStation 4. Now, switching over to MasterCore, obviously every time we get these brand new updates for things such as the PS4 version 11 or the PS5 with version 8, it usually means that the repos that maintain some of the Homebrew applications have to be updated as well. And so we saw that happen, obviously, with MasterCore adding in PS5 8.00 support. And do keep in mind with MasterCore right now, this basically is a way that will allow you to run PlayStation 2 ISOs on a PlayStation 4 or on a PlayStation 5 that's all the way fully patched using a save game exploit in the game Okage Shadow King. So not only did the PS5 8.00 support get added, but if we scroll down into this, we can see that also the PlayStation 4 firmware version 11 was also supported inside of MasterCore. So if you are using MasterCore, you can safely update your machines and still be able to use it to run your PlayStation 2 game ISOs. And then just in case you don't want to use WebKit, you can obviously use the BD-JB. So there is a brand new version that came out. This is the PS5 BD-JB ELF Loader 1.70 Plus. And this comes with a couple of improvements. So obviously it says right here that it unlocks the DEX target ID. It also supports installing PPSA, PKGs, and fake packages. And then a super stable version for 3.x. So really what this is going to get you is going to be the ability to install some of the packages that weren't installing with the previous version of BD-JB. If you have been using WebKit, we've been able to do this for quite some time now, at least a couple of weeks, but this is basically just adding some of that support over to BD-JB for those that prefer to use that instead of the WebKit exploit. And then if you are looking for a version of the PlayStation 5 that you can use in order to run some of these hacks, Control Execute released this tweet, which is based off of Modded Warfare's buyer's guide. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this buyer's guide or these images are based off of the European models. Not So Typical Gamer is obviously working on the United States version. But if you are in Europe and you want to figure out which PlayStation 5 should you get, definitely check out this tweet or go ahead and check out Modded Warfare's video on his site. It's completely in depth. Both are really great kind of resources in order to figure out which model PlayStation 5 you're getting before you actually open it up and take it out of the box. And then I did want to call out this mod for Red Dead Redemption 2. This is a snow mod and a weather switcher. I think this one is really, really cool. You can come and you can look at some of the images for it, but definitely one of the extensions or mods that I saw for Red Dead Redemption that I thought would be worth mentioning here. So definitely check that out if you have a PlayStation 4 that is exploitable and you would like to play a little bit with Red Dead Redemption, especially switching the snow and other type of weather elements. And then we had a whole bunch of updates from John Tornblom. So for the PS5 Payload SDK, we can see that just right around an hour ago, there was some cosmetics that was added into this, another sample for querying the kernel for information on all processes. There was also on the 17th another Klog server sample that came out, and then much, much more. This PS5 Payload SDK has been very active just over the last little bit. And as the time of this recording, you can see there is another update 4 minutes ago. Not only has John been working on this one, but there is also the PS5 Payload ELF Loader. So for this PS5 Payload ELF Loader, it says that unlike the ELF loaders bundled with some of the other exploits, this one uses a ptrace syscall to load itself into the SCE party daemon process. Hence, will continue running in the background when playing games. Furthermore, this ELF loader will resume its execution when the PS5 returns from rest mode. So definitely another addition coming in here from John Tornblom for the ELF loader itself. And then to have something to use with this PS5 Payload ELF loader, there is obviously the FTP server that John Tornblom has as well. And this is basically a simple FTP server that can be executed on a PlayStation 5 that's been jailbroken via BD-JB or WebKit. And it does say that this has all of the typical commands, but it also has a kill command to kill the FTP server. And then it has a remount system and system EX with write permissions with the MTRW. So you can send these custom commands in applications such as FileZilla and a bunch more. And so definitely another FTP server that you probably would want to use, especially if you're using the rest of the work that John Tornblom has been doing. And then the last one that he was working on was BD-J SDK. And from this, he just bumped up the ELF Loader daemon to version 0.3. And that is basically just this tool right here. And so the very latest release is 0.3. And in just this commit that he did just yesterday, it basically supports that 0.3, as you can see right here. And then the previous one was for 0.2. So we're seeing tons of activity in all of the PlayStation 5 repos, which is really awesome to see. And then the very last thing that I wanted to talk about was that Resident Evil 4 Separate Ways trailer is now out, and this is downloadable content that will be available for all of our systems that we know and love. And what I'm looking forward to, obviously, is for the PlayStation 4, since I've already got the game on that system and I beat it. I will be looking forward to playing this DLC on that system. Well, thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Michael, out.